What's like the most broken card that you got handed to playtest? And you're just like, this cannot exist.
What's up, Response On players? It's Brian. We're back at it again. This time, I'm joined by
Andrew, I got orange juice.
James, I've just got water.
and we also have a very special guest.
I'm Barrett Bryant. I have Barks root beer. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yep.
He's got his beat.
Classic. Yeah, I mean, Barks root beer is probably the best root beer. To be honest.
Hands down.
Yeah, 100%. Coke product, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Coke.
That won't get taken out of context, probably.
Or if it does, who cares? I'll let them play that game.
Goodness.
But yeah, like we just said, we got Barrett here with us. We're going to ask him a bunch of questions, and it'll be a good time. That's really all that matters.
Gonna pick his brain a little bit.
Probably a lot of it. We'll do our best. So, Barrett, I know that you've done a good amount of shoutcasting or like commentation for our game. And I know we've asked Tam about this a little bit too in the past, but on your side, what has that been like?
So I do a lot of the commentary for events for Universus when it comes to UVS games. It just kind of works out. Obviously, I used to play, but having been hired by the company on their playtest and game design department, I'm not allowed to play the game anymore. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to take my commentating experience I was already participating in, and I'm basically a pretty easy person to hire for a gig because you know that I won't be participating. And I know that's kind of like a discrepancy because, when we talk about Tam or some of our other commentators like Sam Tate or Jesse Cervini, like they have to make a real decision every time they want to go to a Universus event because if they want to play in it, they're obviously not allowed to work production for it. Meanwhile, if they work production for it, they miss an opportunity to be one of these prolific regional winners, get their day 2 invites to Worlds, even when it comes to the World Championship, which we're coming up to here, for this wrap up of the 2025 season, they have to make a real decision, right? Like if they don't participate in Worlds, they can't win that, create your own character called a prize. Meanwhile, I can't play anyway, so it's a pretty easy pick for when it comes to like trying to be a part of as many events as I can. And I mean, I love Universus. It's really hard not to come to these events and get to highlight our fantastic player base and the unique decks that they bring to the table at every event. And honestly, I couldn't ask for a better position to be in because I just love watching people play the game.
For sure,
I respect that. I respect that for sure. It kind of sucks you can't really play the game like everybody else, but I mean, I guess there has to be some sort of give when you're play testing, right? I don't know. I didn't really expect that when it came to, well, since you play test for the company, play test the game, you're not allowed to play in like these competitive events, but I guess there'd be, I don't know, some sort of complications, I guess.
Yeah, competitive advantage is typically the words that we use. It doesn't seem fair that, you all, if you're going to Buffalo, you all have only had access to these Guilty Gear cards for in your hands, especially with the delays, only a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And reveals wise, you've only had access to all the information to be playtesting with these cards for a month or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this information for over a year.
Sheesh.
So if you want to think about what we believe or UVS Games believes to be the strongest decks at the event, I have a pretty good idea. That doesn't seem very fair if you guys show up to the event and Barrett already has the format unlocked, right? So, and give or take a couple of things. Obviously, you guys are crazy players. Universus players are going to come up with some stuff that, we didn't necessarily say where it's going to be like super powerful or not as powerful. It happens. But at the end of the day, we have a pretty good idea of what event in each format is going to look like. So it makes sense that I shouldn't be able to take that advantage and come in and, sweep the competition just because I helped make the game. And full transparency, I may not be able to play competitively, but I have never fallen in love more with Universus than the past 2 years being a playtester and being a part of somebody who gets to help make the game. I have never owned more cards. I have never built more decks than I have in the past 2 years. when I don't even get to use them at a competitive level. Like I genuinely found a reinvigoration of my love for the game by being a part of creating it.
Oh, I
Sure,
love
that
to
makes
hear
sense.
that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is very cool. Especially just as a deck builder, mad doctor myself, I can very much appreciate and kind of relate a little bit. You know, not to your scale because you just have all this information, but I'm always cooking with whatever character I see that I think is cool.
Oh, I know.
Very true.
I'm listening. I'm always listening.
That's what we've heard
Ears
in
to the
background.
ground.
Vex 2 is a very cool character.
Very true. Very true.
Real quick, I just wanted to ask for my own curiosity: is it just kind of a blanket UVS employees are not allowed to play, or is it specific departments like game design or art design, things like that? People who have access like directly to all of the cards and everything like that.
It is for sure a blanket rule across the board. It doesn't really matter if you are, in sales or marketing or whatever, IP acquisition. It doesn't really matter. I think at the end of the day, the optics of it looks bad, and I think that
Mhm.
is we just want there to still we don't want there to be any room for disparity.
Yeah.
Even
For
if you're
sure.
on, I don't know, what's like the most far away department I can think of. Like if you're on the LGS team and your job is just communicating with local game stores, right? And making sure they're all happy and taken care of. Even if you're on that team and you show up to a competitive event and you see that, John Smith from the LGS team won a regional, there will be a non-zero amount of people that will start asking questions of, doesn't that guy work for UVS Games? Don't you
Yeah.
think that guy might have a little bit of inside information that we don't know because we don't work at UVS Games? So as a blanket
Right.
statement, we keep all of that safe. We just don't let it become a possibility. If you work for the company, you're just not allowed to play at a competitive level.
Makes
I mean, that
sense.
makes
Makes
sense to
sense.
me. I want to touch on a thing you said earlier. You talked about how long you had known about the Guilty Gear cards, Strive cards compared to us. Is that, and you said about a year, is that about how far ahead you've seen approximately?
Give or take, I think certain products are longer in their production cycle and take a little
Mhm.
bit more time. But I think at the given we're a corporation, so we there's plans and schedules that are put into place and dates that have to be met, especially
Mhm.
when we're a company that works overseas when it comes to printing product and getting all these things all together. There's a timeline, and depending on the product, there are shorter slash longer timelines. And so I think the biggest context I can give is sometimes those shift product to product, but if it's currently December 11th, as I'm going to
Mhm.
timestamp ourselves, I know everything about the first couple of products of 2027.
Yeah.
If you want a time frame of about how long it takes for something to go from start to finish, I would say it's like a year and some change, and sometimes it shifts, at least when it comes to like set releases.
Sure, that makes sense.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Okay, so we're
Pretty cool.
usually about a year ahead.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I knew companies did quite a bit. How, like, I mean, you hear about um Riftbound talking about they know what they want to do for the next 3 years, and even when I was playing other stuff like Marvel Rivals a lot, they would talk about, yeah, we know stuff we're working on now is stuff that's going to come out a year from now. So it is interesting to see how far ahead a lot of these companies work.
Yeah, it's also like oh, it's pretty standard just to not be in the now and plan ahead of what's gonna like what you're gonna release in the future. So I mean, it feels like it's standard practice.
Yeah, that sounds
100%.
true. Along with that too, I was curious because like you said, you're doing playtesting. About how long do you get to sit with, say, like Guilty Gear Strive, in playtesting before you get moved on to the next product to make sure that that's functioning the way it's supposed to?
Vaguely, it's about 6 months.
Okay.
Um, realistically, under like the microscopic lens of how much we pay attention of like in its own bubble with like not a lot of extra stuff in the way, it's about 3 months. I would say like a product gets a full 3 months of like hard dedication, and then out of the bigger course of that 6 months, there might be some like bigger overarching like overlap of like another product being worked alongside it, or like maybe a certain part of the product is being like reevaluated or reworked on, and while that gets reworked on, we're working on something else that's like adjacent to it, whether it's like a challenger series that happens and like the production time on those are smaller. We can crank those out in a quicker time for things like challenger decks. As we've experienced lately, things like experience bundles have even smaller of a turnaround time. Um, and depending on where those go, whether they look like a mechanically unique one versus like a reprints orientated one, obviously, like some of those need some playtest and some of them don't need any, right? So it really, and then all of that also boils down to the actual designing of the product as well, because the playtesting part of it is its own dedicated time frame when it comes to creating the products. The actual development of it, which is like the brainstorms and like coming up with effects and mechanics and stuff like that, that is a separate dedicated timeline as well.
Sure, that makes sense.
Now, is that something that that you work on? Are you strictly like, I've been given this set and I'm going to play test with it and see if it's broken, or do you help work with actual like conception of the designs of what goes into a set and like what mechanics are going to be in there, things like that?
At the end of the day, it is always the senior game designer's decisions for like the big overarching like layout of the set, whether it's new mechanics or um, are we going to use like double face cards or whatever, like those kind of like big picture stuff. That is all up to the game designer that is in charge of the product. But I've been very lucky and honestly blessed that when I first signed my contract, I thought I was strictly going to go and I'm just going to play 40 hours a week of games and give feedback on just playtesting. The reality is that they were very open about giving the experience to us of, hey, you should be able to flex some of your game design muscles. You should try and create some things and then pitch them to the designers and then have conversations about them. And all of that started right away, basically after the first 2 months. And it led to me even being able to design products essentially with just my own. Of course, I had a senior game designer that would overlook everything, made sure I would get all of my due dates and calendar schedule stuff lined up. But for example, as this isn't really I haven't really kept this from anybody, but the Street Fighter Challenger decks that came out this year, I designed those and I made them with some assistance, of course, not just by myself, but like I have my name on it. And that was my first entry point into doing game design. And again, like due to that experience, when it came to a future product, which has been revealed since then, the challenger decks for Street Fighter that are coming out next year, I got to do all of it for it. I did all of it. I did, communications with the art department, the character choices, the effects and everything, what I wanted to focus on. That one was all of me. So like they very much are giving us the opportunity to grow and expand and become better designers, which then also make me become a better playtester and vice versa, right? So the job has expanded. I have learned more in the past 2 years in the card game space than I think I ever had as a player, and it all comes down to the opportunities that they've graciously given me. And I hope that as soon as the product comes out and the people get their hands on them, I hope that I've done a good job, and I hope to continue to do so.
Sure, that makes sense. So I know that if we get something really crazy in the second Street Fighter decks, I have you to blame.
Or
Yes,
reversals.
100%. You can feel free to blow up my DMs. Yeah, absolutely.
When
I will
juries
curse you every time I see that whatever hypothetical broken card. It's like Barrett Bryant.
now
You shake your fists. Yeah.
when we get the asset
can't
for
see me,
Jury's
but I shake
foot
my
and
fist.
it's broken, we know who to blame.
Well, I don't know what you want, James. Do you want Jury's feet to be good, or do you want Jury's feet to be bad? Like what do you want?
He doesn't know what he wants either yet, so
I have to decide when I see it.
You cannot please both camps. You either please the people who like Jury's feet or that hate Jury's feet. You can't win over both camps. It's
Yeah.
either gonna be broken or bad.
it's true. No in between.
But yeah, so I've been very lucky to be in this part of card games as a whole that I would have never seen myself be in 2 years ago if you had asked me, having been strictly just a commentator, caster, and a player before then. So yeah, it's been great, and honestly, UVS Games has done a lot for me, and I'm very appreciative of them, and I continue and hope and want them to be successful. And I do think that the future of Universus is very bright because of not just the work that I've put in, but my coworkers and the company as a whole. And so even when I first joined, as I know what the game is going to look like for like the next 2 years, essentially, it's very exciting for when you guys get your hands on them, that you get to run wild and run free with the tools that we've given you to not only compete but to play casually, and hopefully bring in some more of your friends and get into it. Like, we just provide the tools, and you guys get to wow us every single time that we do.
Well, not us, but other people.
I mean, come on.
I mean, maybe us.
Wow them by how bad we are, for sure.
Bro, Felt, that's me.
Goodness. Yeah, I really appreciate everything that you guys have done recently, and then just like I don't know, I've been very excited about new sets that are coming out, especially Guilty Gear, and then I'm excited to see what comes through in Godzilla. So yeah, I think looking forward, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming. I did want to ask you a little bit about, can you kind of walk us through how the design and like playtesting process works? Like when you go from getting a card in your hand to when it's okay to ship, kind of how does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, I can't give you the whole applesauce how the sauce is
Sure.
made.
Just the
I think the biggest thing I can really explain is, first of all, it's a lot of games. It's I think when I tell people I'm a playtester, they don't actually fathom how many games of I'm playing as playtester for Universes. How many games of Universes I play in a week, whether it is a full game or not, like, doesn't really matter when it comes to like evaluating card strength and synergies in certain characters, and then like matchups with those cards. And then not only that, but then how does it feel not only in like the card that it was like designed to do, does it not fit the eyes of where the designer that created it wanted it to end up, and then it goes through any sort of change again, and then you have to do that process all over again, especially with like significant changes, things like block modifiers, maybe not so much, like a speed or a damage are here too, maybe not, but like big overarching design changes take a lot of time to reevaluate and reassess and then give that feedback back to the designer. So across my 40-hour work week, hundreds of games, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games. And that isn't diminishing anything that, like players practice, their practice games and how many games those people play. But like my goals when I sit down and I play Universes for work are very different than what you guys are doing when it comes to like assessing whether or not, should I play 3 Besieges main board versus 4? Well, how does it feel? Let's play some games and figure out what that number looks like. Whereas for me, it's like, does so and so card feel good in a deck? Will I think players will play it? If the answer is yes or no, is that where we want the card to end up? Let's have a conversation with the designer. Let's give some feedback. Then some changes will be made, and we do this process again for another 10 hours, like of playing games and putting it into new decks and trying different things. So at the end of the day, my process goes like, when we're giving like a new rollout, a new patch note, I guess is the best way to describe it, of like cards being changed or whatever. A lot of the first couple of days or even like a day or two of just like deck building, or because sometimes it's not as simple as just plugging and playing it back into a slot of a pre-existing playtest deck. Sometimes it completely shifts where and who wants to be playing with the card. So you have to redo deck building. So I do a lot of deck building every day.
Okay.
And then it goes into the playtest chamber, which is the best way to describe it, of just like whatever's being worked on in the time or what has been worked on, and popular decks that we think will exist in not only competitive formats but kitchen table universes or whatever. They're all in this giant pool of decks that we have available to. And I sit there and I run through different decks and matchups and get a bunch of reps in and get some data. And I give that to the designer. And then when I feel as a playtester I've given sufficient data, I move on to the next focus. And that's kind of the cycle. It sounds boring, but I mean it's just a lot of games.
I mean, yeah,
It's
that's
not
all
that
you can
bad.
really it's all you can really ask for when if you like the game, and you're just doing it as a job. It's like, man, I just get to play the game. like day in, day out. And it's also a lot more intricate and deep than just, hey, I don't like the fact that this card has a +2 block modifier. What if we just got rid of the block modifier, get a Sharpie, like write it on the piece of paper and just like scratch it out and just go from there.
Yeah, I think it even comes down to like, oh, I'm playtesting a void deck right now. And I like lay the deck out and I go, man, I really struggled with low blocks. Why is that? Well, over the course of X amount of design cycles or sets, this archetype that we've like wanted to reinforce, a lot of those cards, the ones that we believe to be powerful and that ones that players will play, a lot of them don't have low blocks. Maybe that's where we need to have a conversation with, hey, maybe this card that's in design for this archetype right now, it could really benefit for having a low block just for the sake of coverage for the deck. Or we have a separate conversation. Maybe that should be a weakness of the deck. Maybe that should be a weakness of the archetype. And then if they are going to lose access to said ability in their deck, but gain block zone coverage, what does that exchange look like? What does version A of that deck with low blocks versus version B of that deck without low blocks, but with better cards that fit the synergies? Where do we want that archetype or deck or card that's specifically being tested? Where do we want it to line up? Where do we want it to fit in the grand scheme of the set and then also in the grand scheme of the format? Because it's going to be that way for when the set comes out upwards to 2 years, 3 years, right? So like all these things get considered, and also at the end of the day, you give all this information to your lead designer, and they are absorbing all of this feedback that we give them, and then they have to make a call on where they believe they want something to land in the grand scheme of the big picture. And if there's a change that's made, we have to run through the process all over again. Now with the new attention to detail based off of the change. Because if they agree with what I said, yeah, Barrett, I agree with you. That archetype really could use some low blocks. We've probably done a maybe not the best job of putting some low blocks on that symbol for this deck archetype for a while. Let's give them this one. And then I have to go through a whole new cycle. And by the end of the next feedback, I go, hey, us giving this card a low block makes this card very powerful because it functions as this coverage that we talked about a week ago. Now it feels too good. And then we go, okay, well, what do we value more now? Do we value more of the block zone coverage for the deck, or should we make the card weaker so that it fits in now this spot that we want it to exist for this deck, for this archetype, for this character? And around and around and around we go. Because then if the effect gets nerfed, yeah, we do this again, and we go, nah, now the card doesn't feel as weak. Now I find myself cutting it from the deck altogether for a different piece. And then the designer might go, well, no. I want people to play this card. That's where this is being aimed at. We need to go back the other direction. And around we go.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting.
It's not just me that's doing this,
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So so it's a bunch of people. We have different focuses. We have different strengths. I would say my biggest strength as a playtester is using my prior knowledge, is competitive leaning focus. Whereas like shout outs to my other teammates, but like Will Howard is very good at finding very powerful combos and like card interactions. So and like it's not something that I would necessarily look at like on my first glance, but Will is very good at finding those, dare I say, negative play experience interactions and being like, hey, this is a little too good. And I'm over here like, oh yeah, well try it against my competitive deck that I'm testing right now. And then he beats my butt, and I go, yeah, maybe this one's a little too good. Huh?
Yes, actually.
I concur.
Turns out.
Yeah. So again, different strengths for people on the team. Obviously, like Jeremy Ray, very smart, intellectual Universus player and designer. His strengths as a former competitive player and now also being a designer for so many years is different and brings something else to the table than what I can bring and what Will can bring and everyone else on the team. So when you put us all in the room together and you put all of our feedback together, I really do think we do a pretty good job at like creating these very well-rounded sets that, and don't get me wrong, not every card is going to be for every player. Not every archetype is going to be for every person out there. But I'm a firm believer that we are trying to create a world that if you want to play Universus in a specific way, you have the tools to do so at nearly every level of play, casual, multi, a boss battle, dare I say, sealed for some people, and then even high level constructed, and not every one of those cards is going to fit into those folders or those little buckets. But if we give enough tools to everybody, we hope that you find a deck that you can fall in love with. That's the goal.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense to me. You're just trying to make the game more fun and better.
Yeah, I make toys for a living.
Exactly.
Yeah, I make toys.
It definitely has me excited for the future of the game, for future IPs, future sets, future products. Especially since I personally haven't played with any uh, like KOF like cards like in the past, because I know KOF is like a big thing for the community, and I'm kind of excited to kind of fiddle around with the KOF decks.
I'm excited for those when those come out.
They are very cool, and they support some deck archetypes that I'm a big fan of personally. So big fan of the guy that helped make those. I really just got to play test them, of course. But
Mhm.
I think the other thing too, one of my favorite parts of the job is there's not a single person working on Universus that the number one thing that we care about also is flavor and like showing respect to the IP that we are working on,
Mhm.
even if it sacrifices gameplay. Obviously, the goal is to not sacrifice either of those things, but when it comes down to it, like I'm down for, and most people on this team are more excited if a card is a huge flavor win than it being competitively viable or whatever, right? Like it is, or like the mechanic of the set, right? So like
I respect
shout
that.
outs to JC for making the Roman cancel mechanic that is out with Guilty Gear Strive, of course. And if anything above all, the flavor of it is impeccable. Like, and I don't even play Guilty Gear, but when I go Google what Roman Cancel means and what it does in the game, and then I look at what the Guilty Gear Strive Roman Cancel token does in Universus, I can see the picture. I get it, and that's what matters.
Yeah, that's one thing that
Yeah,
I've
for
always liked about
sure.
like some of our the designs and stuff like that, especially with like the characters and things like that, how they very well fit into the IP that they come from. It's been a while since I've looked at them, but I remember when we were looking at some of the like Reiner characters and how he like progressed throughout the sets. I was like, this is actually just like his arc throughout the show, and I was like, this is awesome. And so that's always been one of my favorite things about this game is just how well they stick to, or at least do your best to stick to the IP and what those cards mean and those scenes are when they're on the cards.
Yeah,
I
and it's
think.
also
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was just basically going to add to that, like with the Street Fighter decks with drive, with the
Mhm.
drive mechanic, it really just fits. I don't know how, like a better way to put it, it just fits of just spending a resource to be able to do an extra thing, like you're spending the drive gauge in, like you're playing Street Fighter 6, like just expending it to do something. Like it fits, it works, and it feels good.
It just works.
I mean,
It
and
just
genuinely,
works.
like, yeah, with the inside of the drive mechanic, obviously, because I helped make that one. Um, it was difficult, right? Because like when I'm just like told, hey, by the way, in this fighting game, there's a separate gauge, and because I don't play fighting games. Full disclosure, I don't play fighting games, and I'm told, hey, there's another gauge in this game that you have to use, and I go, well, wait a minute. Well, Universe's equivalent to gauge or meter or whatever is momentum. How am I supposed to create a second resource just in a challenger deck product that will encapsulate this iconic mechanic from this IP? What do I do? And so you get in the brainstorm tank a little bit and you try and figure things out. And I go, well, hold on a minute. I don't need to make another resource. What if instead it just became this modal way of spending the resource? And you give it the iconic drive tag, 'cause that's what it's called in the game, right? But
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so then I'm like, well, we've never done something like that, right? We've never created something in Universus that was a modal cost. And I go, well, why don't we give it a shot? Put it in the tank a little bit, give it a test or two, and boom! Like after a couple of playtesting and weeks, of figuring out the mechanic, it kind of clicks, and like you said, it just kind of works. And it's not a lot of investment. It doesn't take a lot of teaching new players. That's a good sign. Like it's just like using verbiage that you already can from previous game mechanics, so that as you're learning the game, it still functions as like a introductory product. As you know, challenger decks are not meant to be like high level, obviously, right at the get go, and
Mm-hmm.
and then it rewards into a successful experiment. And then when you're given the opportunity to elaborate on it, aka get another set of challenger decks you're able to work on, you can take a mechanic that you've created and then expand upon it. Which I think we try to do a very good job with the Shadow Monarch bundle for like Sung Jin Woo. Because Sung Jin Woo as a challenger deck by himself was very much a experiment. It was brand new. It was a new thing that we've never done in Universus. And yeah, it probably fell flat a little bit on the competitive side. I think gameplay wise, it was still kind of fun to do like the leveling up, and you could hit the pie in the sky. You could have six
Yeah.
abilities on your character card, more than any character in the entire game. Like I think that's a cool and exciting thing. Okay, well now we get the opportunity to make it a little bit better. Let's really push it. Let's give it another push. And because of what we learned from the first release, how do we make it feel better and also then perform better? And I think the Shadow Monarch bundle kind of is an example of that.
Sure,
I would
and that makes
agree.
sense. I think the Shadow Monarch bundle is really cool. I say that as someone from outside of the fandom of solo leveling. I have watched a handful of parody shorts about solo leveling. That's about as far as I've got into it.
Yeah.
But like from just the standpoint of like how the game works and how we're wanting to do this level up mechanic, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. This feels good. These are things that were felt like pain points at times in the original deck, and now they don't feel as bad. So I liked the experience bundle, and I know Nick on our team is a big Sung Jin Woo fan, and he was very excited about the experience bundle.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and I would agree that just from the little bit I've seen, uh, like playing against the Shadow Monarch stuff, like on TTS, or just seeing gameplay about it, uh, through multiple like gameplay videos on YouTube and stuff. It it's just really cool to see it in action and seeing how Shadow Monarch behaves and plays now compared to like the assassin skill tree. Like when the solo leveling challenger deck dropped, like it's very night and day. I still like conceptually, I like the assassin skill tree and everything. Like I still think there's something there, especially the Shadow Monarch releasing a couple cards. I think also in turn helps the assassin skill tree.
Mhm.
So like the whole thing I really like.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. I mean, because I agree with you. Like, I think if you were an assassin skill tree player for Sung Jin Woo, and you were like, man, I'm just missing this one thing. I'm literally just missing another way to level up. Hey, that's what the action card's for. Like, literally, you just need
Yep.
to hit that one level breakpoint a little bit quicker. And we agree. We agree that that was probably the biggest pain point of the assassin skill tree, is just being that one level behind. There is a card exclusively in that Shadow Monarch bundle that is meant to help the Assassin skill tree, and it is that action card, right? Of course, there's a couple of weapons that you can do, but if you're a Sung Jin Woo player and you're already playing that Assassin skill tree, you're already looking at every weapon that comes out on those symbols till the end of
Mhm.
time. That
Yep.
wasn't that's like quote unquote fake support, right? That just comes with it. No, this is a real card that I don't think anybody playing the Shadow Monarch skill tree really cares for the action card, because only having 4 levels, you can kind of get there at a reasonable rate. But
Yeah, you can just use double digit to get there, basically.
yeah, but six levels, it gives this action some real leverage, because not only when you use the action card, you can still do your level up for the turn. So like, and that's why even when you go and think about it and you go, oh well, I wish the action card didn't stay in my card pool, and oh, I wish it wasn't a fortif, and all these other things. Well, then I sit here and I go, well, we play tested it with multiple different versions, and spoiler alert, with any of those changes that you just recommended, the card was very good. Like
Mhm.
it was too good, dare I say. And that's not where we wanted it to be. There is a reason why it doesn't leave the card pool. There's a reason why it's a fortif. And all of these things add up and do these different things because it went through a cycle of playtest. And the goal was to level up those decks. Yes, the pun. Not to make them you must play Sung Jin Woo in the competitive format or go kick rocks. Like that's not the goal of what this was supposed to do. It was just meant to give a little bit more support for a deck that we might have missed the ball on. I think where people wanted it to end up.
And you can kind of feel it in there for sure.
I was gonna say, I think it's cool that we have that ability, even that we can say, hey, we're gonna come out with this new product, and it has some support for an older product that we can maybe push it up into the light a little bit. I think that's really cool.
And then
Yeah.
there was another point, Andrew, that you brought up was like you said, man, I'm trying to remember the words that you said, but I loved the way that you said it. And it had to do with like, man, I'm really blanking on it. I wish I could say the words you said again.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sitting here like, okay, but what did
What
I
did I say? Look, none of us remember what was said.
Someone's gonna clip it, right? I don't remember what it was exactly, but the context of where a card ends up or where a mechanic ends up, like, yes, at the end of the day, that's up to us on the design team, but that doesn't mean that we're still like impressed by what the players do with the cards and whether they do. And full disclosure, there are some cards that we think are like, man, we can't wait for the competitive players to really start playing with this one, and then we go to events and nobody's touched it, and we go, wait, what happened? I know, James, you talked about, like seeing like the journey of some of these characters like Reiner and like going through from set to set. I think that's, again, that flavor sort of win, it really does mean a lot to us, because when you look at like my favorite one to talk about is Mikasa. Because Mikasa 1, start off the get-go, she's this aggressive, reckless, but she's impeccably good at what she does, i.e. Mikasa 1. And that character had to get errata. That's how good she was, right? But
Yeah.
she's reckless. She's a 7-hander with no defense. But she evolves as the series goes on. She becomes more powerful, but yet she's still an Ackerman. She's very good at what she does. So she's good at putting stats on moves, and she can get some card advantage for you. All the way where we end up now, Hizuru Hope being a competitive level character, because, yeah, this is her peak of the show, of the manga. She knows her purpose and has very clear goals that she's trying to go through. So Mikasa 3 should be better than Mikasa before her, right?
Yeah, that's so cool.
For sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. That's got to be like probably my favorite thing of this game, is just obviously the gameplay and everything is unlike any other game that I played, and I love it for that, but also just like seeing these IPs come to life in this game and being true to them is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like kind of steering back to like the I guess mechanics tied to an IP. I'm really looking forward to the Street Fighter Challenger decks, and
Same.
if Drive makes a return, I'm very curious on how it's going to be handled or done in those decks. Like what kind of effects are going to be in there with the Drive mechanic.
I personally think I did a much better job on the second ones, but I want full disclosure. I had to create the second ones before the first ones were released. So I didn't get the feedback like from people or what they really liked about the thing, because like obviously like I can give my own feedback and do my own testing, but like hearing what the people believe is the best way to know if you like hit the mark or missed the mark, right? But for the sake of that being my first thing, to the ones that come out later, I'm not gonna obviously spoil anything, so you're not gonna get any spoils out of me. But I will tell you my biggest regret from the first ones was I was too afraid of printing a card that had more than Drive 1 on it.
Okay.
Okay, and that was the thing I thought about all the time. I was like, in Street Fighter, since you can spend multiple bars, I was like, when I saw the first one, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like a Drive 1, we're gonna have like a Drive 2, and like that'll probably be something crazy. Like who knows what?
And that would have been really smart to do on the first deck, don't you think, Brian? That would have been really smart. Man,
I think it would have been really cool, right?
It would have been really cool. So we got a little crazier for the second one. That's all I'm gonna say. We got a little crazier. Okay?
More reversals.
We have Drive 6.
Whoa,
now. We skip all the other ones. We spin the whole Drive bar.
1 to 6, no in between. But I mean, like it's cool to think about because of exactly what you said, right? It's like if it's meant to be this modal resource, why can't it be spin 2 momentum or commit 2 foundations or spend 1 momentum, commit
Yeah.
1 foundation. Why can't it
Exactly.
be any of those variations? And et cetera, and et cetera, and et cetera, right? So I'm very excited for people if they enjoyed the first ones. I'm excited for them to see the second ones. And in the grand scheme of it all, it is in the middle of a star-studded lineup of other products that'll be coming out next year. And I just think it was this point where in the design team and the playtest for all of us, we were all meshing incredibly well of what we want the game to feel like and be like, and what you can play and what you're allowed to play with. I don't know, I feel 2026 is just a really good year for products without being like overburdening to our players, right? Because I'm sure if you played during 2024, there's a lot of stuff that came out in 2024.
A lot of stuff.
There's a lot of
Yes,
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't
And
even
I think
have
even in
everything.
2025, obviously we did a better job. And I think like there's a world where things like experience bundles can like help with supplementation of these things.
Mhm.
And we tried out the Blitz box, right? I think that was a new thing that we tried out this year. And so I think going forward, there's so much information that we've learned across the years of trying new products, experimenting with mechanics, seeing what the focuses of each of these sets should be. I just think 2026 is like this really big beginning of all of those things that we learned becoming a culmination of incredible products. Like genuinely is the best. So I mean, like if you like Guilty Gear, the same guy that made that set, Tekken. So
Ooh,
so be on the
Okay.
lookout.
sick.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like
cool. Because I like Tekken as well. So
Roman
yeah,
cancel
so
and
again, I'm
Tekken.
not gonna dox myself. I'm not gonna give any spoilies, but like I just there's so much. That's why I keep saying it. There's so much to be excited for in this game, and the shift in design that we've kind of had in the past couple of years, I think genuinely is the better for the game because I'm an old head. Obviously, I've been playing this game for a long time,
mhm.
um, and it's just every time there was something nice about like every set being the same, basically, just with different words on them. But we are really not afraid to try something new. And it might get a little bumpy. We gotta figure out some rulings. We are trying to print new and interesting mechanics. But I think stuff like that is what's exciting to players, while still just being the game that you know and love, right? But Roman cancel tokens. Oh, I remember what you said. I remembered it. You had said something about how a lot of the cards recently, when you look at them, when you read them, it's sometimes a little difficult to figure out where they're exactly going to land until you start actually playing with them. I think that perfectly designs 20 or that perfectly explains 2026 products altogether. The shock value might be there when you read the card or the mechanic or whatever, but you won't actually really have a good answer until you start playing with it.
Okay.
Makes sense.
It's
Yeah, I mean
exciting.
that's kind of how I think that's kind of how everybody was thinking of tension. I know for
Yeah.
a while everyone was like that, just free momentum all the time. That seems really strong.
Crazy.
Yeah, but there's a
And
cost, right? Because no offense, some of those tension attacks are kind of dookie.
they're intentionally weaker for
They're intentionally weaker.
to
Um,
pay for that for sure.
and I really think this idea, and I was really excited to see what players were going to react to this idea of use it or lose it,
Hmm.
because that is something that we've never done for something like a resource like momentum. We've done like temporary foundations, right? We've done that before. Uh, but this idea with it being associated with momentum, while also accelerating it and giving it card text, yes, of course. But like there is just a real situation with Roman cancel tokens that, your opponent played 2 tension attacks. They've got 2 regular momentum and 2 Roman cancel tokens, and they feel unstoppable because they have 4 momentum. And you as the player draw up your hand and you go, well, I only drew 1 attack. I guess I'll build pass. And then poof, by build passing and progressing your own board state, you also said your rival discards 2 momentum.
It's true. Get rid of the two with cool text.
Get rid of the ones with cool text.
Yeah. Basically, the Roman cancels can fall flat if you end up drawing cold. So like there is that sort of I guess risk with the Roman cancel.
Yeah.
Especially if you're holding it for defense.
Yes.
Oh yeah, then it's especially awkward because you're like, nah, that's fine. If they just throw like a 15 damage move at me, I'll just use the Roman cancel yellow, make it 3, and then I'll just take the 3 or whatever. And then they build pass, and you just kind of got egg on your face.
Or like you use it as a way to accelerate momentum. I'll use it for a broken psyche or a whatever, right?
Yeah, you have
and you're
double
like,
options.
yeah, you have all these different options because momentum spenders just exist. But then your opponent goes, yeah, I'm not going to walk into that. I'll just build pass, play good defense, and now you have 2 less momentum that you thought you were going to have or use right now on my turn, and now you don't have to go back to what you had that wasn't a Roman cancel token. So it goes back and forth, of course. It creates the tension in the game, I guess you could say.
I do,
Yeah,
and
I get it.
I do like that sort of I guess interaction, like the gameplay there of. Well, my rival used a couple tension moves to kind of build up these Roman cancels, and they clearly have like Broken Psyche or these other momentum outs that they're going to try to use for defense or what have you. So instead of just swinging, I'll just build one pass, and then they just lose the Roman cancel. I'm not going to walk into that trap that they have set up over there. I'm just going to just stand over here and watch those cards just dissipate.
Watch you waste the meter.
Exactly.
So I've got a question here. You may or may not be able to answer, but I'm just curious. Previous sets, obviously stuff that we already know about, but stuff you may have worked on. Was there anything that we have now that when it came out you were just like, or when you originally play testing, or you're just like, this is wildly too strong? Just like what's like the most broken card that you got handed to play test, and you're just like, this cannot exist.
Love that answer.
That's a fun one. I like the way you worded it at the end. I think that's a more fun way. Man, that this just can't exist, huh? Okay, I got one. I got one story, and it's actually about Besiege.
Love it.
Oh,
love it.
And the reason I say this is because when I joined, AOT 1 had already basically shipped. It was basically unrealistic for anything that I was going to say to exist, to be any change. I did, however, I was obviously jumping into my new position, having to learn thousands of cards playing catch up because I came as a player, so I only knew about the stuff that existed, and then I now had to be and start playing with basically all of the products of 2024, jumping into playtest. And I read Besiege for the first time, and I went, "Wow, that's really good" on a 3-diff. And Besiege actually, before it got shipped off, was a low attack. And I went, "Wait a minute, that's really good. That's really good. That's just gonna kill people."
Yeah.
And then if you do a quick UVS ultra search of Attack on Titan 1 low blocks with +3 block modifiers, there's not a lot of them. And so not only was it going to be in my opinion, this is my opinion as somebody coming in, I thought it was going to be such a negative play experience of Besiege being a low attack, also within a set with basically very little 3 low blocks, that this was going to be a bad idea. I said we should make this a mid just so that it can be blocked by any +3 block modifier regardless of zone. That was a change they were able to roll out quickly enough that it did end up making for the final cut, because I kid you not, Besiege used to be a low, and I said absolutely that cannot exist that way. And so that's my one story I think I'm safe to tell. But sure, I think in general, James, there's like a few of those, and I'm going to say this nicely because I do genuinely love all of my coworkers. Sometimes we disagree with each other, and that's okay. Like, I think we each have different ideas of acceptable power levels and things that we're okay with existing in the game. Or I use this conversation all the time. Your version of what a negative play experience will not be the same definition of what mine is.
Yeah.
If I told you all that you're like, yeah, man, I play mill decks, I'm gonna mill out all of my opponents, there is a overarching groan that will occur in the room.
Not for me.
But you can't yuck my yum, right? Like if that's where I find the most engaging, hard puzzle to be solved every single game is how do I get my opponent's deck to run out? And you love, and that's what makes you play the game that you love. That should be rewarded. But we should keep in mind other people's, opinions as well when it comes to playing the game. So I think when it comes all the way down to it, if you're an aggro player, if you're a control player, if you're a combo player, whatever, we want to facilitate to all of these play styles, but we don't want specific things of negative play experience to shove people literally away from the game. Like, that's obviously really bad. So I'll own up to this because I own up to this one a lot, even publicly. Bertolt, Living Weapon. We can talk about him.
Mhm.
Bertolt Living Weapon got the okay thumbs up, not just from me as a playtester, but other people on the team. Meanwhile, there were other people that disagreed with his power level. Fast forward, where the people got their hands on Bertolt Living Weapon, he was obviously a menace to most people when he played against them. I was a strong proponent, though, and you can go find me talking about it. Listen, guys, I don't actually think he's that broken. I understand that he's strong. It's okay to have strong characters. That's what competitive formats typically have. There are answers to it. There are things to be doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you remember that format, guys, he only he didn't win anything. He just top cutted a bunch. Or and
Yeah.
not even then. Like, if you remember that Nationals, only one of them top cutted. One pre-errata Bertolt top cutted at Nationals. And it was Mitchell Cimino playing the fire symbol instead of the death symbol, which is what all the Bertolt Living Weapon decks were doing. So already an anomaly, right? And he
Yeah.
still got errated, which is a decision that we on game design do. And why? And my biggest answer, and it says it in the article, so this isn't anything new, is at the end of the day, I had to concede the point that it was less about the results that Bertolt was putting up, and it was the play experience that he provides. And I would say that was me as a person learning how to be better at my job. How do I become a better playtester? I was so concerned about, no, I don't actually think this guy's like gonna break the format. He's just gonna be playable at a competitive level. God forbid a 5-hander can be playable at a on a competitive level when we haven't really given them a lot of love. But he's going to be strong, but he has answers against him. And what I didn't pay attention to was the play experience when you're sitting across from it. And at the end of the day, that's where I think I fell short. And I learned from this experience because it was not about the power level. It was how you make players feel when you sit across the other side of a card. And that matters just as much as trying to create a healthy competitive format. And so, full disclosure, I think even most of the bans and erratas that we make nowadays aren't actually a power level concern. They're usually just play experiences. And because we do want our players to have fun and play the game. Sadly, when you put things on a hyper competitive note, people are going to do whatever they can to win. And sometimes that results in some not fun experiences for like a mass majority of people. And so we have to kind of curb those a little bit.
Mhm.
But like Bertolt Living Weapon was like my first big wake up call of like, I'm going to say it. I was right. He was not the end all be all of competitive play. But he was a gatekeeper, and he wasn't fun to sit across from. And I will concede to that, and I learned from it, and I think we've done a better job since, obviously.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure, and that makes sense, especially when you talk about like basically just what you said about how most of the bands and stuff that you do are more play experience focused
Against
rather than
MPE.
like rather than like actual power levels.
Yeah, I would agree that for the most part, most cards that I see banned, I'm like, that's probably not that bad. But we don't have anything, or we don't have anything that feels clean to deal with it, or it feels bad. Bert didn't feel that bad to sit against for me, but I was just like, okay, well, how do we try and do stuff that he wants to do? Like, he lets him play into me more, even though that was a goofy plan. I had a blast playing Night Eye into that Nats format. And just going, yeah, man, you want to
Crazy
see your
man.
deck? I want to see your deck. Let's do this. That
We
was
both want to see
so
your
fun.
deck. Yeah, and kind of like on the other side of that, you'll have these like gatekeeping strong characters or cards, but then you'll have some of these cards that kind of come out and they're okay. They're not necessarily bad, but they're not like on the like at the top of people's minds when it comes to deck construction for competitive play until like a few lines of products come out like challenger decks or other sets and stuff, and then it's like, well, wait a minute, this card is actual gas.
Yeah, which I think that's the coolest place a card can be designed at.
Agreed.
When you're like, this card's cool, but I don't know if I want to play it. And then like another card comes out and you go, actually, that card is awesome now. I want to go
So-
find all my copies of it.
A card that that screams to me of that idea, to me, is Camouflage Counter. Because I think
Mhm.
Camouflage
yeah.
Counter was an alright card, not terrible. Like when Girl Power dropped, it was fine. And then we got Devil Gin and a few other like card pool like cards. And Camouflage Counter is just an essential attack for Devil Gin now. So like it is the perfect example for this idea of, yeah, this card's okay, and then few product lines later, oh no, this card's pretty good.
And we got somebody who could really use it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I bet none of you right in this room can tell me what Asui 4 does. I bet none of you know what that character does.
Who?
Or
Yep.
is that the one?
Uh-huh.
Is that the five-hander one?
The five-hander? Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
five-hander.
she can
The one that
block
has
with a
that
high or
card.
low, give it breaker or something.
Yeah. So Camouflage
Yes.
Counter is her card.
Yes,
It's
it
hers.
is.
Yeah.
It has her symbols on it. But the point is that you're right. When that card came out, it fell flat even for the character that it was designed for, even though the text on Camouflage Counter is very good. It still never found a home. So I think there's something to be said there, right? Like of what you're talking about is, I think I gotta word myself carefully. I think
I can't
it is a
dox
good
anything.
it is a good spot to be in if a card develops and grows and finds new places to exist in decks when it either had a home and then like something rotated so it lost a home and then it just kind of sits in your collection like nothing, right? And I think a lot of cards from Girl Power kind of end up in the same conversation, not just Camouflage Counter,
Mhm.
but like, and the reason I say that is because like I look at cards like Luna Tejeras, right? And Luna Tejeras has a very strong line of text on it, which says for cards leaving your card pool, it gets reduced difficulty.
Yeah.
But even with that line of text on it, it doesn't find a lot of homes in air symbol decks that do a ton of clearing. Why? Because that's just not really a game plan that a lot of players were doing. Even when Pony was doing it, nobody was playing Luna Tejeras, right? But when Mikasa 1 comes out and then she gets eroded, and they go, well, Luna Tejeras is not a weapon or whatever, so we're not going to play it anymore. So people forget about it. And then you fast forward to what like the current Mikasa Hizuru Hope's decks are doing, and you go, hey, we have a home for this one again. Or, in the same idea, Dual Needle Lunge, a very, very powerful ultra rare from League of Villains, when it first came out, saw the most play out of any card in that set, probably. And then it disappeared for 2 years. And now all of a sudden it's seeing play again because characters like Hizuru Hope want to find cards like that can leave the card pool because hand advantage isn't the problem. Getting momentum isn't the problem. It's just getting stats on your attacks isn't the problem. How do I just get stuff to keep leaving my card pool so I can play as many moves as I can? So eventually cards like this find homes. You're right. Devil Jin, who is already inherently very powerful, even with an errata,
Mhm.
uses an axis of the game that is scary when you pair it in conjunction with abilities that are used in the card pool. And that's why, if you go look, there's genuinely just not a lot of cards in the entire game that do that like care about being used in the card pool for a good reason, because characters like Devil Jin make them a problem. So you got to be a little scary with them, but at the same time, you can reinvigorate in characters and archetypes that people aren't playing by putting in even just one, maybe two powerful tools for characters like that to exist. For example, Devil Jin didn't really see a lot of play, at least after he got hit, until Aerial Goblin Bolt came out. It fits this category of what we're talking about. And then he
Mhm.
got eroded, and people were like, yeah, that's really broken if you do it on your opponent's turn. And he was really good at killing like Nick Reagan at the time, so he still kind of like had a place in the format, but then everybody forgot about him. And then Equipment Heist came out. And it was another card pool effect for a guy that also benefited for shoving more stuff into his card pool, aka getting the 3 attacks in your card pool to use Equipment Heist. So then people start playing him again. So like there are driven points and edges, and the actual Devil Jin list hasn't really changed by very much on like what the deck is really good at trying to do. The answer is it abuses card pool effects. And Camouflage Counter has been here for a while now. Titan Armbar has been in and out of that deck archetype for a while now. And
Mhm.
now there are just more strong card pool abilities from things like Aerial Goblin Bolt and Equipment Heist that we've now talked about And even then, along the way, it got powerful tools like teaming with the Attack Titan. Throughout as we've gone and gone and gone, and obviously as a character gets to the end of its legality cycle, it gains access to more cards than it ever had access to before. So, but the reality is, and I'm going to hit you with a really fun fact here, and you could probably figure this out on your own if you thought about it.
I like fun facts.
Universus players are not very good at going back in time and looking at cards that are still very good even to this day, because there's a lot of recency bias in our players. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But then when a player does find out something really, really good, sometimes it's right before it rotates and it might be too late.
That's fair. I would have stopped at the beginning of that. Just Universus players aren't very good. At least that's on this team.
No, that's not true. I love Universus players. I think Universus players are some of the most intelligent deck builders I've ever seen. And yeah, if you like the game, you're going to want to experiment, and experimentation is all we can ask for, because I think there are too many permutations of what you can do in our game that no one will ever figure it out. Ever.
Yeah, deck building in this game isn't like it's a little tricky, especially if you're like new to the game and you're trying to get into it. Like deck building is just a very I don't know if difficult necessarily is the right word, but I can't really very intricate. Like it's not easy to just build a deck like straight up and expect it to, I guess, fire on all cylinders, right? Like deck building in Universes is a skill, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an art, not a science, especially in our game.
And I love deck building. I don't think I've made some cool decks and fun decks, and maybe I've struck gold a couple times, but a lot of times I make a deck, I'm like, nope, that didn't work. All right, back to the drawing board. Like I just love making decks, and then just seeing all these other ideas pop out in the competitive play. It's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's just cool when you're just kind of looking through the card list sometimes how certain ideas will just like strike you. Like I don't remember what it was. I went on like an hour-long fever dream of like trying to figure out a way to make the Cynthia backup work in either Vax or Bakugo 4 and using Hunter's Ally to build it in and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to build in things that make you discard and make you discard even harder, and just like trying to figure out how that would work. And it was a lot of fun to theory craft, but then you get down to the brass tacks of it and you're just like, but how does it beat Devil Jin or something like that, but like it was very cool how some of the cards, sometimes you'll just be looking at something and you'll be like, oh, this is a whole idea that I've never thought of, and then it kind of leads you down that path of trying to figure it out.
That's one of my favorite decks to build right now, is like, or especially when I was playtesting, like during the era, and obviously people have built it since, but like I would, in that same category, James, I would build Elder Toguro or Mimic using
Elder.
Yeah, I would use Hunter's Ally to build in Cynthia's, and I go, okay, well, this is a cool engine. How do I put this inside of a deck that still functions and plays the game normally? And I found Mimic did it the best, because Mimic I could play on the Earth symbol, which there's good tools there, but I could, because he had Chaos, he could also play things like Emerge Victorious. So I could put in my deck, I could play Hunter's Ally to build in Cynthia's, and I could play Emerge Victorious, which had the Chaos symbol, to sack off my Cynthia's, which then means I have room to build in new ones because of the unique rule.
Mm-hmm.
You can go search your deck, and I say search because I'm only going to play one shift attack in my deck, and it will be Colossus Titan attacks to build it automatically transformed into my stage. And then after this Emerge Victorious resolves, I can use the form on the Colossus Titan that's now in my stage, and I made my opponent discard 3 cards while also presenting meaningful damage attacks.
Yeah.
And then proceed to continue going on. And this was a little tiny engine that I could just incorporate inside of my Mimic deck that already is very powerful, because he's a good character. He's so good that he needed an errata, and even with the errata, still shows results. So, but this is one of the things you can only do in a character with these specific symbol spreads because of the World of Attune. while playing an Earth deck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You mentioning Elder Tagoro, I was like, man, I really love that character. And I had a deck that I kind of only played on TTS a handful of times and had a lot of fun with it, but scrapped it and have considered rebuilding it. It was just an Elder list that utilized a lot of backups and discarding the backups with his form to dig out the attacks from my drop. And eventually I just fill up my discard pile with backups and I just form in Harness on Deaths and just burn you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ready? I was doing the same thing because my deck was already under life because I was playing Hunter's Ally. You just put that card in because it's a good card, and then your deck starts to take form of like, well, how do I make it work? How many backups do I need to play? Also, I'm playing Elder Tagoro. How do I just survive against early aggression decks? Because
Yep.
you already have a very powerful defensive ability on your character, and you can go grab an attack whenever you want, et cetera, et cetera. And you evolve, and you find, and even through all of that evolution and through all of that deck building, someone still might choose not to play that deck at an event because there's so many other questions you have to ask when you go to these events. In the same idea with Guilty Gear being recently released, I think cards like Ocean Buddies are the best card in that set because of what it can enable for the future of everything ever adjacent to it. Ocean Buddies, very unassuming, but it's very good for what it does. And because it's water attuned, you now, until the end of time, have to think about any evil water characters that come out from now until those cards rotate can just play a normal game and go, yeah, I'll use an Ocean Buddies to shove in an equipment heist. And all I have to do is play the game, play attack cards, and I can start building things like Massive Mute Machine straight from my deck or discard pile, all because my character has evil and water. Granted, if you go look it up right now in UVS Ultra, there's not a lot of those. They don't exist. But it's something you always have to keep in mind because that combination of cards and deck building can exist in this game.
Yeah.
I love deck building in this game. Like Elder Tagoro is just one of my favorite characters in this game. I'm always trying to like, well, what if I just brought him back? What can I do? And then my brain hurts building him. And then even when I play him, I'm like, man, this character hurts my brain to pilot, but it's so cool.
Me playing
Yeah,
Eraserhead forever.
I mean, I kept going back to the same characters over and over because I thought they were cool. And then, one got rotated, and now one's been shot in the face by a card that is very dangerous for him.
And
But
I
that's
think
okay.
that's the joy of the game, though. Is like, don't get me wrong, we're already playing a multi IP game, so like, if you get very attached to like a character because it's like in your favorite IP, obviously with the reality of like standard rotation and really the only version of our game that a lot of people play is competitive and 1v1, that
Mhm.
eventually that character will rotate and you'll have to go find something else to be doing, but it does still mean that if you are better at deck building and pivoting to different strategies, you will be more equipped to handle rotation when it does occur because you can either go find something that's adjacent to what you were playing, like playstyle wise, or you're ready to go and move on and play something new in a different avenue of the game.
For sure, for sure. With that, though, I think we've kept Barrett away from anything else he might want to do with his life for long enough. We really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about the design side of everything. It's very cool to learn more about how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
I wish I
been
knew
a
how
very fun-
sausage was made.
You really don't. You really don't want to know how sausage is made.
It's blissful ignorance.
It's been a very fun discussion, for sure. And we like Brian said, appreciate you coming on and talking to us about it. It's been a fun time.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to be here. I mean, obviously, I feel like it's been a long time coming, and we felt we had this conversation about me joining and coming on here for an episode back in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was very transparent. I mean, the reality is, guys, I don't watch and absorb a lot of content, especially because I work on the game, right? So I spend 40 hours a week playing with Universus cards. The last thing I want to do is typically talk about Universus cards after my 40-hour work week. But the reality is that I do watch your guys' stuff because I really think your guys' channel is the epitome of what the reality of what people that play our card game are. And you guys have the branching, some of you guys that are the grinders, some of you that are totally happy playing Vex 2 for the rest of your life till she rotates. Like you have every level in between, right? And at the same time, you guys create content for the people by the people. So like I enjoy listening to that because it puts me back into reality because I'm in this spot that I never would have dreamt I would be in 2 years ago. And instead of playing with the cards anymore, I get to watch you all use the tools and toys that we've created, and you blow me away every time. Like all of you do. Everyone that plays this game and listens and goes to events, like you're the reason why I love what I do because I don't get to do that anymore. But watching you all have fun and give your hot takes about cards and give your very meaningful opinions on stuff matters. And I'm trying to be better at absorbing that content. So I do watch y'all's because I think it is the closest to reality for the majority of the people that play not just our card game but card games in general.
Well, I
Perfect.
appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that,
I think
yeah.
I think we try to be pretty forthright about our opinions. We don't, other than I'm not a very negative person, so I don't have to be negative very often about anything. I usually try and see the bright side of things. Luckily, I have Jake, who isn't here, who will usually be the negative Nancy, so that I can argue with him.
He would probably lose his mind if he heard the Bertolt discussion.
Yeah, there was probably there's a whole secondary thing that he might hear it later, and we might hear a personal rant to us about.
So thank you for that.
But yeah,
it's very divisive, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is like, I think when it comes to content in general and players, or even me, right? Like being here, like everybody is entitled to their opinion, and I think we have very strongly appended people in Universes, players, creators, designers, anything. But at the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing. Like we all want Universes to be successful. We want the game to be. It's been around for 15 years. We want it to be around for even longer than that, right? Like we want it to keep going. 20 years, 25 years. I don't even remember anymore. But like it only gets that way if the people who are playing the game are having a good time. And it only gets that way if the people that are making the game love what they're working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. As always, thank you for being here, Barrett. Thank everybody who does listen, such as Barrett, to any of the stuff we've been doing. We really appreciate it. Tell us what you thought was really interesting about this episode. I'd say it was an interview, but really it was more like a monologue that we sometimes interjected on, which is good. That's what I wanted.
Made it easy for us.
I did very little talking, and I was having a blast the whole time, so that's good.
That was very fun.
But yeah, go in and if you like this, obviously give us a thumbs up. If you are wanting to hear more about our other stuff, or we mentioned like we talked to Tam a month ago, and you want to look at that, you can hit our notification bell for when we get other people in. You can go look at our old stuff. Some of that's timeless, some of that obviously isn't. But we appreciate any listens or any time you want to spend on us on YouTube or on Spotify. But with that, I've been Brian. I have no more questions, Your Honor.
Andrew, I didn't realize this was court.
I've been Barrett, and I can't believe for the first time ever I get to go, thanks for watching. Response on players.
And I'm James. I'm just the other guy.